to steer, and you get to decide. It may not agree with what I've suggested to you, but at the end of the day, my job is to suggest it to you, and to give you my best scenario of what can happen. And what you do or don't do is determined by you. And then don't allow the medical community to abuse you. Don't allow us to abuse you. And I say that being, if you're not getting treated the way you want to get treated, then walk away and go find somebody who is. There's so many different aspects of practitioners out there now. You know, my practice has always been based in holistic principles, even though I am a allopathically trained doctor, but I was raised in a holistic home. And so what I love doing is marrying the two of those. So I don't want you to walk away with a bag full of pills. I want you to walk away transformed, as my practice slogan is. You know, we are a practice of transformative care. So I want to transform you back to where you're supposed to be. And how we do that is not by keeping you on pills for the rest of your life if we don't have to, but you got to own this and you got to take part in it. So that's what I came to share with y'all today.
I love that. I love that. I have left doctors because I'm type 2 diabetic, and the only thing they kept saying is, get you on this, get you on this. And I'm like, yeah, but I thought type 2 diabetes was controllable by me. What do I need to do? Now, my levels were very high, so I knew they had to get me stable. Right. But I'm like, we have to fix the root cause. It's what I'm putting in my mouth.
I love it. I love it. The root cause. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's so funny because I have some patients like, well, you know, some people like, I control my diabetes with my diet, and then others like, I control medicine. Mm-hmm. Every diabetic is controlling their diabetes with their diet. Now, how well they're controlling it is another question.
Yeah.
So the medications have their place, and at some point, sometimes the medication is all you have. Right. We don't get to that point, but know that every diabetic is controlling their diabetes with their diet. So that's a great point.
I got a question.
Yes.
And I battle with my wife about this all the time. So, and I'm serious. It seems as if the man dies all the time before the lady. So is there something going, because it's always, I know my father did. And pretty much most of the time you hear, oh, well, you know, my father, you know, he passed and however long ago, but my mom, right? So I'm like, is it something going on with, I don't know about the other men, but is something going on with Black men that we're not going to doctor enough, or we're just living a stressful life? Or, I mean, what is it, why is it, to me, it seems that there's a disparity between the death ratio between African-American men and African-American women.
That's a really great point too, because statistically, they always talk about how married men live longer. So living longer doesn't necessarily mean that you outlive your wife, but you do live longer because having someone there to care for you helps out. But I would absolutely think, when you're talking about the difference between African-American men and other races, that number one, the stress level is extremely high. And one of the things that I see, but I'm fortunate enough to have a really pretty nice population of males in my practices. But I do see that men just don't like to go to the doctor. A lot of men, and I won't make it an absolute, don't like to go to the doctor, or don't have time, or don't want to do the things that the doctor's asking them to do. But I will also say, when men do get involved in their own healthcare, like I love a brand new diabetic male who comes in the office. They seem to be so, because y'all are problem oriented. So if I give you my solution, y'all like, okay, yeah, I'll just follow the rules and I'll get it done. So when you do take part in your healthcare, it makes a difference. But when you ignore it, then it's bad. There's bad outcomes. So you don't know you're walking around with a blood pressure of 180 over 100. You know, you don't know that. You're just going to work every day taking care of your family. And this year, unfortunately, or I should say 2020, we lost too many good brothers that we weren't expecting to. I think we're at that age now, we're in the 50s, and we're at that age now where we turn around every day and we hear about, somebody's had a heart attack and we've lost them. And it's been more males, I would dare say, than we have anybody than females. So it's a couple of different things. It's not taking the time to find out what's going on. And being maybe a little bit hard-headed when you're at home and you're not taking the time. You're still going to eat what you want to. You're going to do what you want to. not necessarily taking the time to go to the gym or even just take a walk. So those things absolutely have an impact. Whereas women do go to the doctors and don't take care of themselves even when they're going. So they're going to those appointments, but they're not, they come home and they still, feeding the rest of the family and then sitting up at night eating Little Debbie's, or stressed about thinking about everybody in the family, or trying to care for their parents or whatever. So there's a lot of impact that has on it. And stress keeps coming up. And I think that's important because I think we as a community also need to learn how to manage stress better. Learn about meditation, learn about, joy and how it impacts, our body and our immune systems. We are literally killing ourselves because we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, and it is really impacting, and people don't talk about it. When you go in, they just want to write your prescription. Well, I think when we talk about the transformative care that needs to happen, it's about the whole body, whole mind, because you can't care about your diabetes if you're worried about where the next hour is coming from. You can't care about your hypertension if you're worried about, your husband's, what he's doing after work, or what your kids are doing or not doing, trying to get into school. It's very hard for you to therefore decide what you're going to meal prep. It's just not a priority. So we've got to learn how to prioritize, and we've got to learn how to compartmentalize things better. And that way, and that's men and women, so that we can, as a community, get healthier and survive.
So you brought up one good point that I wanted, when you're talking about our other stressors that affect our health. When I used to tutor, and I would see the things that the kids had to eat or not, waiting for parents. But how do you help, or how would someone like us help to at least give different options for somebody who is, working 2 jobs just to make certain ends are meeting? What suggestions can we give them to make them help their kids even more, so they're not down the road?
It's not a simple solution. You're exactly right. Michelle Obama, when she was in, their administration was in, she got so much pushback when she tried to change the nutrition in the schools. Something simple as wheat buns for hot dogs versus regular buns. I mean, they dragged her for things like that. I've done a lot of work in the schools, and when I was living in the New Orleans area, was working with the schools and doing education for the kids. And I would be in the cafeteria with them while they were waiting for us to set up for the program. And I think we were doing a program on washing your hands, but they were eating their breakfast. Mm-hmm. Their breakfast was a honey bun and a sausage and biscuit. Like, this is in public school systems. And I mean, these are huge honey buns. Like, I couldn't believe that this is the way that they were starting off their days. And I remember my mom, who was a school teacher in Philadelphia, and when my mom made us go to school in the morning, we had to eat oatmeal and farina, and I hated it. But there's something to how you start this day off for these kids and what you put in. So I tell parents, first of all, it doesn't have to be fancy. Make it simple, and then always set the example. So if you're helping out in a situation where kids are involved and they're like, oh, we're bringing snacks, the first thing you look around is there's bags of Doritos and soda. That's it. That's what we grab it, and we're feeding them a snack. We're doing them a favor. Set the example. Get water. Go ask for go to the supermarkets and ask for donations. Get a case of apples. Get a case of bananas. And guess what? Kids are going to eat what you got in front of them. A couple of them turn their nose up, but guess what? When you're hungry, you eat what's in front of them. And by showing them that, and then showing the parents that, then they will be, and they're like, well, you're eating it for them. Why can't you eat it for me? Because that's the other thing parents love to say. They won't eat that for me.
Yeah.
Well, it's also what you give into. And so we have to first set the example. So if I were in a situation where I was mentoring somewhere, I not only myself am making sure I'm representing correctly by eating the right thing in front of them, but then if I'm gonna bring them something good, and then show them how good it can be. Peanut butter and apples dips, just make it something that makes it a little bit more enjoyable and more fun. And then the third thing would be have them participate. If it's a situation where they can actually get involved in the snack, have them participate in making it. It actually makes them more interested in it too.
Okay.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Dr. Monica, I think I lost my mind when I went to college because
Didn't we all?
brain's a little bit different. We had a garden in the back. My family was, my parents was born in the early 30s and the late 30s. So in Birmingham, Alabama. So they had a garden. I mean, they would wake up early in the morning, go out in the garden and everything. And I was popping peas when I was a little girl.
That's right. Canning tomatoes and popping peas.
We're talking about shucking corn. But I will say this, when I got to school, when I got to Tuskegee, and those cornflakes and oatmeals went out the window. I mean, I couldn't get to the calf and get some Captain Crunch. I mean, you can train a person. And my mom, I mean, she was eating vegetable plates and everything, and I was too. But for some reason, when I got to college, I wanted the junk food.
Absolutely. So, you know, I think it goes back to, and I think we all go through those stages. Absolutely, for sure. My daughter's at Tuskegee right now, about to graduate, and watching her journey from freshman year, she was at Spelman for 2 years, and then, you know, came back home and went to Tuskegee. But watching her journey, not only in her own personal journey, but what these schools have to offer. My gosh, even at the level of, you know, college. Mm-hmm. But when after the freshman 15 hits you, you start getting your mind back, right? You start saying, wait a minute, hold on, what am I doing here? I don't even feel right. And I got more on me than I got more luggage with me than I came with. Right. So I've also watched her journey back to what she knows. And I think that's part of the journey. I didn't have a Twinkie till I was probably 30 years old. You know, I was like, I didn't even know what you mentioned, you know what a Little Debbie's was. I didn't even have a Twinkie. And by the time I had one, it wasn't that good. So it didn't make me hang around. But if you're raised on that, then that's what you know. So the good news, Deborah, is that you knew what was right. So even if you would go through a period when you're not doing right, you're going to get back to it because you know what's right. And so you can probably admit to the fact that when you went through that phase of not doing right, when your money was funny and your change was strange. And so you did the best that you could. But once you could get back to figuring out, well, wait a minute, what's really going to sustain me? Then you get back to it. So I don't think just because a child veers away from it that we've done a bad job. You train them up in a way in which they should go and they should never depart. They're going to come back to it. And that's the important part. But if they never, ever see it, I have had adults who have never eaten a vegetable in their life, ever. Wow. And that is just horrible. And so we have got to do better.
I think I can probably count the number of days that I've eaten vegetables in my life.
See, you're one of them. You are one of them. I got to come over there and fix that. See, that I got to fix that.
Really?
Because I run into
I thought you were always very health conscious, very physically fit.
Vegetables?
And you don't eat vegetables?
My mom.
Some people are genetically blessed that it doesn't show, but I'll tell you, the outside doesn't always match the inside. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about. You're back to your point about men and Black men in particular. As long as they physically look good, they keep moving. And not really, it's until their age 50, 60, where we may start seeing the side effects of not having that fiber or those vitamins in. And caffeine can only take you but so far.
Well, Dr. Monica, I hate to call this short, but I'm on a free Zoom. And they're about to shut us off here in a few minutes. But we do thank you for joining the Don't Stop the Grind podcast. And we want to tell you to don't stop the grind. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. So very good information. I appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you guys for inviting me. This was fun.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Good night.
Night.